The money to adventure ratio is a really important thing to look at. I spent quite a lot of time chasing £1 million for an expedition to the South Pole. So that involved just a lot of PowerPoint presentations and meetings in offices. But then I also spent 4 years cycling around the world and spent £7,000. So I think if money is some sort of limiting factor in your adventure, as it is for most people, then I think looking at the money to adventure ratio is really important. For example, you could just right now get a little rucksack on your back and a raincoat and empty out whatever's left in your fridge and then walk 400 miles from your front door. You could write a book about that. It'd be a brilliant adventure and it would be very cheap. Or you could spend years trying to raise £1 million to go and have a 4-week adventure in Antarctica. So yeah, looking at the money to adventure ratio is important.
I think one of the fallacies people fall into with time is using it whilst you're young to try and earn more money so that you can then like have the freedom to go on an adventure, by which point it might cost you more because you have more like needs and things. And when you're younger, you can just sleep in a tent or like just get away with things a lot more that you maybe wouldn't be able to when you're older. And also just your earning potential when you're younger is generally a lot lower. And I just think it's quite interesting. When I was like 8, I'd get paid £1 for sort of mowing the lawn, doing like quite a lot of work for a few hours. And I thought I was putting a lot of time in, and then like just changed that to when I sort of started getting minimum wage. It was like, okay, I'm actually earning quite a lot of money, but actually now earning like £300 a month seems like nothing. And then it just keeps on going, leveling up, and putting so much time into sort of working on the minimum wage now for me seems so stupid when I could have actually just been going and having adventures. And so I think I wasted like a few months of my gap year trying to earn money, which I just didn't need to do. And I just don't think it's just a concept that we don't quite have in our heads properly until you've gone past it.
It comes with the caveat, of course, that you need X amount of money to live. But if you are privileged enough to have X amount of money to live, then yeah, I think you're far better going on a long, cheap adventure now than saving up for longer and having a shorter but more expensive adventure. Definitely. It's often quite grim and miserable at the time, but I think most people's fondest adventure memories are when they're properly dirt bagging it and roughing it when they're young. And I think they're just the most wonderful memories that are far better than saving up 10 times the amount of money and staying in a load of hotels in the long run.
And I think you have harder expectations to meet as well when you're spending a lot of money. You feel like you have to be really happy the whole time. And then like, there's still going to be things that aren't quite so good. And that makes you more annoyed. Whereas when you're just grateful for everything, you are literally grateful for everything. And it's great. So a confusing one. But yeah, definitely, like I say, last summer I just went cycling for like 7 weeks around Europe and spent like 10 euros a day. It was great. And I've got a friend walking around the coast of Britain at the moment for charity. And he's trying to spend like £5 a day on like food, and he's got like a year of adventure on such a small budget, which I think one of the issues is that you see like adverts for just going to like crazy places where you have to spend lots of money on Instagram. You think that's what you need to do. Or remember last year I paid like 120 quid to do the zip wire in Wales, like the longest zip wire in the UK or something. And it wasn't that interesting. I had to queue for 2 hours to do it. Had like this sort of 2 minutes on this zip wire it was fine, completely fine. And then like in the afternoon, got in the sea completely free, had a better time getting in the sea. And it's just like, we just see things and like think that's what we want, when actually like often something that's different is better.
Completely agree with that. And also your friend who's walking around Britain, who is that, by the way? You should give him a shout out.
Jamie Lloyd.
Jamie Lloyd. I gave you a mind blank there, put you on the spot. But yeah, another thing to highlight of what he's doing is, well, assuming he's from Britain, is he just walked out his front door and began. And that's immediately saved him £1,000 on having to fly to Thailand to walk around Thailand. So you save £1,000, live on £5 a day. You bought yourself 200 days of adventure time there by just doing something that's local as well.
It's amazing. I mean, I've been watching his stories every day, and it's just so much epic nature in Britain that he's just seeing, and like so many sort of small things. Just because when you watch like Blue Planet and you see these crazy amounts of whales or something, he's had so many of those moments of like beaches completely full of seals, or just like getting lost in flocks of birds and things, just because he spends so much time outside on the edge of the sea. And yeah, it's just been really interesting watching that, being like, wow, Britain, there's so much really nice stuff going on. He's just putting so much time into it. It's really cool. So back to the 4 things. I feel like There are some other questions about money that we didn't quite address, perhaps, that you've been asked. So, any other advice on the topic of money for adventure?
My thinking always is if you can make your adventure cheaper, it will become longer. If you can make it cheaper, it will probably become more dirt bag and more exciting. And if you can make your adventure cold, slow, and miserable, then you are having an adventure. You're not on a holiday. So all of these things, they all point in the directions of just go as simple as you can, go as cheap as you can, go as local as you can, and go right now.
I'm glad I asked. Yeah, that was a really good summary. Nice one. Okay. And then going on to the third one, expertise to be an adventurer, because this is something that I think our first topic around ego and just sort of thinking of yourself as something, it's part of the identity. And there's just like a bit of a gap on like who you want to be versus who you are now. And it's just like actually go and do it. So how do you help people address those questions?
I think a lot of people get into adventure through reading books of adventurers who've gone off and done something cool out in the world. And you read that and think, wow, that's amazing. I want a slice of that action. And that's certainly the case for me. When I was a young adult, I loved reading these big adventure books. And then I've gone on and I now write books about my own adventures. And you're saying you've kindly read one or two, and that's fantastic. And hope that encourages you to have adventures, blah, blah, blah. And on it goes. So there's a hazard, I think, though, when you read these books of journeys and successful, heroic, handsome adventurers doing crazy stuff. You think, wow, these people are amazing. They're not like me. My experience is that having now become good friends with lots of people who make adventures as a living, they and me all fall into exactly the same category of pretty much every single person I know who's gone off to do big adventures has begun it because in some way they felt like a loser or a misfit in life and want to try and prove something to themselves or to the world. And therefore, if you're interested in doing adventures, but you feel that you're not quite up to the task, then actually you are perfectly qualified to just do what all the rest of us have done, which is to test yourself, go out there and challenge yourself and dare yourself to do something different and difficult. And you'll probably be surprised at how well you can cope with it. So the old imposter syndrome, I think, runs very strongly in the world of adventure.